Welcome to the first. You have a story. If you look back on your life, you've done things for the first time that no one in your family, in your town, in the country has done. This is Dr. Sandi. You have unknowingly paved the way for others without knowing it or even acknowledging it. This is where you tell your story so that those who come after you can walk in your footsteps to build their own firsts. Hey everybody, today we are talking to Michael Arata, a human who started his business career as a steel factory worker in 1990. Back in 2013, he invented and developed the systematic waste prevention methodology called industrial upcycling. He then started to implement it in the real business and industrial environment of Czechia. 2 years later, industrial upcycling became the groundstone of Industry 5.0. All this from a man with no academic education. He's not a scientist, a politician, or a celebrity. And in spite of that, he has held webinars and talks at more than 450 universities, schools, and Zoom calls just to help us create a wasteless world. It's easy to find Michael on LinkedIn at Michael Arata. That's MichaelRadda. All right, welcome everybody to the first with Dr. Sandi. Today I'm speaking to Michael Arata, and he's going to tell us all about himself and the industry that he's working in. Michael?
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be with you. So just shortly to introduce myself, it's really short. So my name is Michael Arata. I'm human. And so I add a little bit more. So I'm the founder of Industry 5.0, and generally I started my career as a steel factory worker. So I do not have any academic degree, but for more than 30 years, almost 35, I'm in business environment, more time in the boiler suit in factories and businesses. And for the last 10 years, I'm building wasteless world for everyone, because this is what was nobody doing before. So I take the challenge and I started, and today I'm running a network in 111 countries. And I am happy that we prevented more than 10 million metric tons of products and materials to become waste.
What got you started? What got you interested in this particular industry, Michael?
It's interesting question. Generally, I spent most of my life in or with logistics. So in factories, but usually dealing with some kind of logistic, global supply chain, deliveries and warehouses, similar. And before I start my journey on the construction site of wasteless world, I was working for a second largest Japanese corporation on a board in Czech Republic. And we have a big client. And I helped him to get rid of losses on the returnable packaging. It was in 2010. And after the project was successful, so I went to the factory and still saw a lot of packages. And I was considering, so what's wrong? We manage it. And they said, no, Mr. Arata, that's a single-use packaging. It's a single-use pallet, so wooden pallet. Because it's in Europe, the standard size is 80 by 120 centimeters. But this pallet was 97 to 17 to fit in a container. And I said to me, okay, so why, without any damage, should these pallets be scrapped? That was a nicely looking wood. So I went around to the suppliers of the client and told them if they would like to have the pallets. And they said, are you crazy? And they know me for a long time because they call me strange logistician in my company. And I said, no, they are here, you can use them. And they said, it's non-standard, so what we should do with that. So I went to internet and checked whether someone in the world in 2010 tried to prevent waste happen on industrial scale. There was not a single one. So I said to me, okay, so if there is no one, and I think it's possible, so I will start. So I started with a project where we crashed the pallets and use it for generating heating and electricity for the city. It was one of the first of this type in the world. The corporation decided that I am too crazy for them. So I left and I started by myself. At the beginning in 2013, I called the project Industrial Upcycling. But 1 year later, told me my clients, but Mr. Rada, that's not a methodology anymore. You created a new industry. So I spent the time, I found the name. And on December 1st, 2015, I wrote and published an article called Industry 5.0 from virtual to physical. And already from the name, you can feel that already at the time it was completely against the stream because everybody was trying to get digital instead and virtual. And I said, no, it's wrong. And I started, it was not my intention, but this made me to the owner of intellectual property of the term. And generally, I started Industry 5.0. And there is one very interesting thing. I'm sitting in a building which was built 1889. And in a city called Pilsen, you probably may know the Pilsen Urquell. This is the brewery which is 600 meters from me here. And this city is 75 kilometers away from a place where the word robot was invented and developed and named for the first time in a human history. It was done by the author Karel Čapek. And do you know which year? It's quite interesting question. How old is a robot? The term robot.
Now, I only know from my experience of TV that in the 60s, when I was a little girl, is when I first started hearing about robots. So obviously it had to have been developed, before then.
So it was invented 1921, so 103 years ago. And I will share with you and with your audience, I will send you, British BBC make great radio play out of this screenplay generally to celebrate the birthday of Karel Čapek, which is the author. What is interesting, already in the first novel which mentioned the term, the author is warning for addiction on technology. He said, don't be addicted because the technology does not need us. We will need technology.
We need them now because it's happening, right? He warned
exactly
years ago and it's happening now.
And he was predicting that in 1921. And
I find that amazing.
The reason for creating Industry 5.0 using the term was the fact that there was Industry 4.0, which you probably heard before. And Industry 4.0 is, to say it very simple way, it's more robots in the factories and shops and everywhere, so the people do not have to work. It's a very simplified. But nobody of those people who introduced Industry 4.0 generally in 2011, but then officially in 2013 in Germany, nobody was able to answer what the people will do. And you know yourself very well that how old get the people who go, for example, in a rent and has nothing to do. So they go fast down, really aging 100 years in one day. But if you have something to do, if you can live meaningful life and do the work, you will feel young. Here behind me, this man, this is my granddad. It's generally the portrait is made out of real vinyl record. He passed away 6 months ago. He was 99 and 9 months. He was teacher all his life. And nobody can do it with me because I'm really in some way crazy. We spent 3 to 4 hours discussing very difficult topics because he said, Michael, the brain must work. And when his wife passed after 70 years of marriage, it was 11 years before he is gone, he said to him, I will read every single day one full book. And for 11 years, he finished every single day one new book.
Oh my goodness. I can't even get through one per month or one per year.
If you look at him, how he was reading or making the riddles, And that's unbelievable, unbelievable. And
I do agree with that, though, that once your mind is active, I've seen it in the elderly. Once they stop working, a lot of people die after they stop working. And you wonder why, and it's because they don't have a purpose, right? They feel like the thing that they've lived for their entire lives is now gone. And that's very hard to understand, you
on
know.
on the other hand, a few years ago, just before COVID, I was invited by there was a big conference of the students of psychology in Czech Republic. They invited me as a speaker. Don't ask me why. Till today, I don't know whether I was invited as a patient. I don't know. I delivered my speech, but I am preparing very carefully for every single of my speeches. And I came along a great interview of Carl Gustav Jung, which was the world famous psychologist in the world living at the time of Second World War and so on. And he make today we will call it podcast. So 1 hour made by BBC again, 1 hour discussion. Really great. I will send you the link in such a great Swiss English, but really I love it. And he ended this 1 hour interview with one sentence, which I will never forget. He said, "The man cannot live meaningless life."
Say that again, repeat that.
The man cannot live meaningless life.
Wow.
And he was so accurate. And when I listened to that, I was already doing for 5 years at this aim of building wasteless world. I realized that I found myself, the meaning of my life, I found in creating the world which will be really free of waste and wasting in all its forms. And let me just explain to you and to the audience that when I am speaking about waste or Industry 5.0, we are not talking just about the trash in the garbage bin, but there are 5 types of waste. The first is the trash, which we know very well. But the second is social waste. Social waste, there are people who cannot, and even animals, which cannot live meaningful life. Because I don't think, I eat meat, not much, but my body simply cannot do it without. I have to time eat meat.
Right.
But I don't think that the meaning of animals' life should be to be killed and eaten. I don't think so. The third one is...
Can I ask you something on that?
Yes,
because
please.
There's an overpopulation sometimes of animals. And how do you cull the herd? If you're not eating them, do you just kill them? Then that's a waste in itself, is it not?
I will answer with one question. Okay. Who or what do you think is a role model of Industry 5.0? Who or what? There is only one.
I actually don't think we've reached Industry 5.0 to have. I personally can't think of anyone who's a great role model for that particular industry.
I will tell you, it's nature. Because nature does not waste.
So when you say it doesn't waste, let's clarify that. When there's an overabundance of something that is taking over, whether naturally or not, or unnatural, nature doesn't always cull the herd in a meaningful time for us, right? It might take longer than we want. So they have deer hunting season, let's say, because in deer hunting season, there are too much deer for the population area where that they're in, right?
The question is how the overpopulation was established, whether it was the activity of not hunting and then came the hunting. So it's a purpose generally. But if you look at nature generally, this is why I say it's not wasting, because the tree or even the forest does not care whether the leaf will fall on the right or on the left side, whether it will be eaten or become soil, it's just solving. Why is nature not wasting? It's a second reason, because the term waste was invented by human. So this is why I make nature to the role model. And nature is not planning, but still is here for a few millions years longer than us. And this is why Industry 5.0 is not fifth industrial revolution, but it is the first industrial evolution ever led by man. And this makes it so different. But coming back to the other waste, so we have physical, social, then is the urban waste. Urban waste is empty factories, building flats in cities where people they are homeless people. Why should this be correct? That's wrong. The fourth one is process waste. And there is a lot of in process waste. So very few people know, for example, that all around the globe, more than 55% of a shipping containers which ship the cargo inside is being shipped empty. There is just air inside. There is nothing inside. And there is much more. And the last waste, which we added last year, is the wasting of time.
Yes, that's a big one.
And exactly. What is strange about the wasting of time, that we get the time and the moment when we have been born. So this is the most valuable treasure. And it is at the same time the mostly wasted one. Because we waste on so many unimportant things our time. And one more question. Do you know what we are being given at the moment of our birth? So it's time. Time is one. What is the second thing which will be with us all our life until the last day?
I thought it was like the ability to think.
Probably as well.
But I guess we can lose that. We can lose that ability sometimes.
Exactly. But what I am meaning, we cannot lose.
Ourselves?
It's a shadow.
Ah, how interesting.
And do you know that if you fire a how it's called? If you fire a candle or a scissor.
If you light a candle.
Do you know that there is no shadow?
There's no shadow on a candle.
There is no shadow of the fire.
Fire
does not have shadow.
Oh, fire doesn't have shadow.
That's interesting. I didn't know about it. I read it somewhere and I tested, and it's true. So we get time and we get shadow. These both will stay with us.
What is the purpose of a shadow?
I don't know. Don't know.
What does it do that it casts a reflection on the ground and follow us everywhere? Like, what is the purpose of that?
Maybe it shows up the way. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I know that we can use the shadow for our purpose. Maybe not our shadow, but we will use the shadow of a tree. We will use a shadow of something. I am working with, we can paint with shadows. We can leave, in Hiroshima, in Japan, the only what remains on a few buildings has been just the shadows of the people. So I think shadow reminds us on our existence. It can be one of the purposes of the shadow.
Does a dead person have a shadow?
That's interesting. And you cannot steal it. It will be yours.
Wow.
So you see, I am a little crazy. I am a little crazy. I was warning you, but, only the crazy people change the world. Because if you behave standard way, you will just be one of the crowd and you will not be. Yes. So I am, I have lost 15 years of my memory. So due to some, so I do not remember anything from 0 to 15, nothing at all. And it somehow,
Is that
it will be somewhere.
a conscious or subconscious blocking of something?
Yes, it was after I was healed for speech disorder by white hypnosis generally. So he locked, and it was, I think it was not intention, but he did it. So I have a, let's say, increased brain capacity, so I can absorb a lot of information. And my great ability is that I take one thing and I take the second thing and I can combine it in a way which nobody did before. So this is my strength. And this is how I built Industry 5.0. This is why I was able to create a global network in just 22 months, 111 countries. And in every single of this country, there is a human there. There is a living ambassador. It's not a digital network. No, there is a person. And it was so interesting. And I delivered keynotes and speeches and webinars to more than 450 universities. Me, who is not having university degree, it's all the time strange feeling, you know.
It's
It's
because
great.
we all learn in different ways. You know, you
Exactly.
might not have the piece of paper that you studied one thing, but your block of knowledge probably could usurp some of those professors in your particular area that you know very well. So it's nice to have one, but it's, you know, the people that are the smartest people I know are my grandparents, are older people who have very little structured knowledge, right, from school. But this is things they've learned and they pass down. They don't even, my grandfather didn't even know how to write, really. But you
And
couldn't beat him in mathematics mentally.
exactly. And this is why in Industry 5.0, we go back to roots, you know, because the strongest tool of Industry 5.0 is not the computer or virtual reality or money. No, his hands, you know. We call it the power of touch. This is why we deliver results first and then we talk about it. I
Yeah.
cannot talk about things which I did not deliver. Everything in my office, every single piece of furniture is made from obsolete products from factories. This is from a real producer, largest producer of vinyl records in the world. And he throw away every single day up to 10,000 pieces in a garbage because the vinyl records do not sound properly. And for him, sound is the only criteria or the main criteria of quality. You know, and every single piece here, except of my chair, it's made by my hands. So you will sit on it, you will eat on it, you will do everything because I live wasteless. I cook wasteless. I do everything. So I need to be the role model who tested before I ask others to do. I am the one.
That's a very difficult life to live, though, isn't it?
I will not call it difficult. It's beautiful because every single moment you change the world. And if you realize that, and I spoke to over a million of people already, you know, it's really strong. And I know that the aim, which I set for me, so to build wasteless world for 8 billion people, it's possible.
Now, let's take, I know here in New York, I'm in New York. Let's take recycling, which should be a simple thing. And it's a mandate that we should recycle. But when you don't recycle, there's no penalty per se or penalizing of people who don't recycle, right? They try to make it up on the back end where they have someone at the dump go through the garbage and take it out. But for us, there are things that you talk about waste that, you know, instead of washing out a container, we'll put it in the regular trash. How do you combat those kind of things?
First, allow me a question again. Do you recycle?
Yes. As much as I can, as much as I feel I'm recycling, I do. I
No.
think so.
I am sorry, you do not.
And why is that?
Because you sort, but you do not recycle. It's not your fault that you answer this way. 99% in the world will answer the same. I will explain why. The waste industry, recycling is a great idea. We take something, we crash it, let's say, and we make something new out of it. It's a good idea, but we gave it in the wrong hands. You know, the waste industry became a few years ago the third most profitable industry in the world. The first one is the war industry. The second still is the crude oil industry. The third is waste industry. 10 years ago, there was drugs, there was human trafficking, and there was the waste industry. They skipped these two, and it's the third most profitable in the world. And they use the tools to make you think you do right things, but you do not. You know, recycling, you can recycle only waste. You cannot recycle a product. It's a waste recycling, combination of these words. So firstly, you have to make the waste, and then can be done something for it. My government, you answer yes. My government says, Czech Republic government says, the Czech Republic is recycling rate is 92%. This is official number. Do you know what is the reality? It's 12. 12 is being really recycled. 80%, 80, is being sorted. So they use the term for different operation. And you know, if we will recycle, the world will be fine, but we don't do it because we consider.
On that point, the recycling for you is after it's sorted, it's made back into something else.
Yes, it's processed into something, into the same or something else. It doesn't matter. But it's process. What we do, what you do, I do, we sort. And we can sort quite well. A lot of people in the world can sort quite well. What does it mean for the waste industry? You increase their profit because you do the work which was done before by them. This is why they get all the incentive and money and machines and everything to sort. But right now you do. And what they did, they just sold it, you know. They didn't recycle. They sold it to China. When China closed for plastic waste in 2017, they started to sell it to India, Africa, different nations all around the globe, which accept it. And you know, this is just a mafia. The human life has no value in the waste industry. Nothing. It's a waste. So what I do, I will show you one very interesting thing, which very few people know. I will show you what is waste and how it's. Use my business card for that. Okay, so let's imagine we are meeting face to face for the first time. I am used to give you my business card, you take it, everything is fine. All right. Just now, let's erase this memory and we do it again with one difference. We came to each other and somewhere in the middle, put completely new stainless steel garbage bin. Okay, so I come to you, I stretch the business card, I fall down and the business card falls in the garbage bin. I do not have any second one, but for whatever reason, you would like to have it. So we look inside and there is just the business card, nothing else. And you said, Michael, I will take it. So I take it out. I check it whether it's really clean. I apologize. I hand it over to you. You take it. And just now imagine, if you do this in Czech Republic, you can get the penalty of $200,000 for this one business card.
Why? Why is that?
I will explain. In US legislation, so as in many legislation all around the globe, there is waste defined different way, but they are very similar, okay? One of the definition is waste is something what you would like to get rid of, nothing more. So this definition I call stupid, okay? But there is a second one, which is better and more understandable. Waste is something what you place on a location dedicated to waste storage, which is, for example, garbage bin. So this business card fall in a garbage bin. So it was placed in a location dedicated to waste storage. Why I did not get the penalty? Because I have the right to manage the waste. I do not want it, but it's to protect what I do. So I can take it, but you cannot take it up from me because you do not have the registration. You do not have the right. Just now, I will show you something very interesting. Let's imagine that this edge of my hand is the edge of the garbage bin, okay? Here is a business card. Here is a business card. Here is waste. You see, nothing happened with the product. But according to the law and legislation, here you cannot take it because it's waste already. And there are very few people who can do, called waste industry.
Wow.
So, and how waste is being prevented? You just stretch your hand and never let the product reach here. And I can tell you 95 to 99% of products you can manage this way.
That's very interesting. I've never thought of that, quite honestly. I know there's no penalty for us sorting. And I think sometimes there should be at our level. If someone doesn't put the container in the right bin and it contaminates the rest of the garbage, I think there should be some kind of penalty for them.
On the other hand, a few years ago, I think it was 8 or 10 years ago, the New York governor started with the composting project.
Yes.
And after 1 year, it failed.
It did.
Not because the people has not been able to sort the bio waste. No, it was because that nobody realized what to do with the compost when it is collected.
And also in the city, it smelled horrible, right? So that was an offshoot of that, because especially when you do it with food and it stays there and ferments and rots, the smell of that compost is really horrible in the city. And so people didn't want to smell it.
And on the other hand, just in Canada, so behind your border, there is a producer of technology which can overnight process biowaste into compost with no smell. But what I would like to say, you probably saw it on LinkedIn. I'm really heavy contributing, a lot of posts, a lot of articles, and so on. I have to write. I'm writing since November 20, 1989. If I will not write, it will tear me in pieces. I don't know why, but it's so. Here behind me, you cannot read it, but I will send it up to you. There is a document which I wrote for 8 years. 1 page, 8 years. And in the meantime, I published over 5,000 articles. But this one took me 8 years, is the word and first in the mankind history, is the waste prevention legislation. And why it took me 8 years? Because you can put it on the wall at your home and it will work. You can put it in the school, it will work. You can do it in a bank, in a government office, in a mine, and it will work.
Why is that?
Because it's defined the way that you will understand. It's not complicated. I am not a lawyer. I cannot write 100 pages. And if I will do, I will know that nobody will read it except for the lawyers, maybe. So it must be written in a way that is understandable to everyone. And this is exactly how I did it. And there is a definition how waste is being created. So as the definition what to do to prevent the waste to happen. And a few years ago, in 2018, I think, I was asked by one of the advisors to the US president at the time. I was asked to calculate how much money it will cost the US government to implement the systematic waste prevention, so Industry 5.0, on a national level, all your states. So I spent my time and I sent it. What do you think will be the price for the US government or any other government? We realize that the price is the same for all the governments. What do you think is the price that the country will become really wasteless?
I don't know if the country will ever be wasteless. Really don't.
I can tell you the price. The price is $1 per one citizen per 1 year in duration of 10 years. So $10 in 10 years per citizen will make America. There will be all the time a little waste, but the waste industry will not be the one who will rule the country. And this is, at the moment, this is the fact, because it's only increasing.
The waste industry can't manage our time for us, right? So they're only effective in certain components of your 5 edicts of waste.
On the other hand,
how can they manage our own time? We're the manager of our own time.
It will be great, but if you will go with the garbage already, the waste industry is managing. I would like to say it's not only the waste industry which will be influenced. It's about the politicians, it's about the banks. Do you think that someone from I call them giants, from the giants like the work I'm doing?
No, that's costing them money. They're losing money by you doing this.
Exactly. But it's not my fault that they set up wrongly their business model. Their business model is on bank. If you do not waste your money and you have enough money, you don't need a bank to borrow money, so they don't like it. The politician as well, they prefer people who will be easy to be managed, easy to be ruled. And there is such a long list, but I am just a simple man. I'm not rich. I do not own anything. I'm just a simple man with simple aim. And this is to build wasteless world. And I created Industry 5.0 to be the main tool which industries, because the industries can be even more profitable. But there will be one difference with the profit. The profit will be not based on scarcity, danger, lies, wasting, because very simple image. If you are a baker and you bake a great bread, you can make 1,000 breads. But if only 10 people will buy, 990 will be wasted. So what you will prefer as a right baker, you will for sure not bake 1,000 breads. You will bake 10, and then more people come and you will bake 20. It's fine. And you will grow step by step. I have been on the graveyards of new cars. Car is being produced and not to be sold, just to say to the bank, we have produced 1,000 cars a day. Airplanes, ships, even rockets. So billions are wasted.
Yes.
Carbon emission trading is a crime against the planet and humanity.
I agree. I was watching, I forgot what movie it was, but it was so clear to me. This woman was working in a factory. Oh, it was one of these boss shows, Undercover Boss, right? Yeah. And he went to his own factory and he makes sneakers and different kinds of footwear. And whenever they return a sneaker that they consider defective, it gets cut up and thrown out instead of giving it to a homeless shelter or the people who don't have, if you feel it's not up to your level for sale, right? Instead, when people return them, they literally slice them up and put them in the garbage. And so this one woman, she decided this is ridiculous. And it was against their law to give it away. It had to be cut up, right? So she made it like her mission and her purpose to get that law for that company changed, because down the street, there were hundreds of homeless people who didn't have shoes. And I'm glad to say she was successful. I wish I remembered which company it was to give them credit for it. But she started the recycling and upcycling, because once it got cut up, then it went into something else. And I thought that was so amazing. and brave in these days, right? Because she could
Uh,
have lost her job over this.
yeah, and so in the US, I think in many US states still the right to repair is not there. New York was recently, I think, a few months ago. New York accepted. There has been few more cities. I'm watching the entire world, So This is one part of my crazy brain that I'm able to absorb this information, and we have internet. If you speak about the wasting, I'm sure your mother, father, grandparents, when you eat and you have been a child and you eat at the table, they told you, eat it all, not to waste.
Yes.
It was the same in every country, probably.
Yes.
But right now,
because there are kids in Africa who are starving.
Yes, exactly. That was exactly the same with me. And, I was all the time thinking that it must be a huge amount of the remains on the plate, that it must be really huge, huge amount in the percentage of wasting. What do you think is the percentage of the remains on the plates in the restaurants, schools, households, everywhere, all around the globe, from the total percentage of 100%? What do you think make the remains on the plate? It's a hard question. I don't ask easy questions. I ask all the time hard questions.
I know for myself, I try to take what I need, but if I go to a restaurant, I don't always eat my food. I could be hungry. I try to take home. This is my recycling, right? I take the stuff home with me.
I do the same.
Because I will never finish eating after drinks and all the hors d'oeuvres, and you get to your meal and you're like, oh my God, I can't eat a single thing. Now, I have seen people say, I'm not taking it home because I'll never eat it. I don't like leftovers. I happen to like leftovers. So that meal might serve me for 2 more times. But yes, that is a big percentage of people who let the food go. I know there are restaurants who come around to, not restaurants, there are companies that come around to the restaurants and harvest the food that was cooked but has to be thrown out. And they give that to the homeless shelters. I mean, we have quite a few here that does that. And
it is a great step, but the number which I was asking is 2%. 2. But 75% of all crop and food never reach a second stage of production. So it's not true that we do not have, that the planet does not have enough food for 8 billion people. It has enough food for 11 billion people. But the only condition is we will not waste the food.
And then how do we get it to them? Because usually the waste that is in big cities like this, how do we get it to a Haiti or an Africa, an African country that's without it decomposing before it gets there or breaks down, that it's not edible?
You just named very interesting topic, and you spoke about this in your previous interview as well, this topic. And generally, it is about logistics. It is about logistics. It is about planning. It is about, already exist tools, for example, so-called advanced planning systems. These are tools which has been developed just recently, a few years ago, and they can predict how many bagels will be sold in the store next to you tomorrow. And the difference is 2%. Because they use the old collective data and they have a very strong analytical tools, and they can do this. And there is a second stuff that you can plan a lot of things, but because the industries are in a silos and they do not communicate together. So, Nicaragua their main export is bananas. They have 2 main markets, Russia and Ukraine. After the war started, they lost 80% of all exports. And bananas are a very special product because they are unripe completely, because it's calculated for the entire supply chain, how much temperature and so on. So when it reached my home, that it's right. So they lost 80%. 2 months after.
What do they do with that when it's lost? It just gets thrown out, or it gets repurposed and sent
No,
somewhere?
with the banana is complicated. You can do a lot of things even with the peel. So there are 34 things which you can do even with the peel. You can even eat the peel,
Right.
which has a lot of different minerals and so on.
Yes.
But I think that majority was landfill. Few months after this, there was an overproduction of onions in South India, landfill, not to spoil the market price. 2 months later, oranges, 100 million tons of oranges in Australia, wasted.
That's very scary when you quote those numbers.
You know, I was standing, and I don't know whether you have time to watch my keynote, but there is one image or two images of a radish. So crate filled with radish, and then the radish is in a container bin. You know, I was working on a project for the second largest distributor of food, of fruits and vegetables in my country. Here are 5 warehouses, and every single one wasted every single month 400 metric tons, every single month. And there came a truck which was refused by the buyer of a chain store, and the truck was full with radish. And the reason for the refusal was that the leaves of the radish are not green enough. You know, we do not eat the leaves, but it was the refusal. So it came, the radish has been in crates, so small wooden crates, and they throw every single crate in a garbage container immediately, without thinking, without considering. I was standing there and crying. I am not ashamed for my emotions. Today, 2 years later, instead of 400 tons, they have 5 tons per month. Because you can do a lot of, you know, you can radish. Very few animals eat radish. A radish is specially cultivated for human taste generally. But what I tried, and if you will have the opportunity, you can try as well. You know, I usually do not buy full crate of radish. It's a huge amount, but I get it from him and I test it. So I make a smoothie, only radish and a few drops of olive oil. You will not believe the color. The color was so beautiful. I cannot describe it. Try.
Radish?
Radish, just radish in a NutriBullet. You just crush it. It was so delicious in a taste.
Really?
Yes, great.
I mean, a little bitterish as a, you know.
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't know why the taste changed during the process, but I really just few drops, and the rest was radish. No salt, nor pepper, nothing. Just plain. Color, unbelievable. And the taste was wow.
I have to try that one, Michael.
Try it.
I make a smoothie every day, but it certainly doesn't have radish.
Try it. It was so fascinating for me. And then, of course, I cut it. I make other dishes out of it. I freeze it and so on. So we realized there can be a lot of them, which I don't care that the leaves are not green, because I cut the leaves away. I don't eat them. Nobody eat them. So, and with these ideas, I came back to the factory. We discuss it. We find the partners, and step by step, from 400, we drop to 5.
And do you make radish smoothies now? Is that your new business?
If I will be there, and if I will see it, because, you know, radish still, it's cheap, but to buy a crate, you need a lot of radish to make a smoothie. So I don't do it. But since the moment when I have the air fryer, I have here air fryer generally, a small one, really small, like a kettle. It's really small. So I do not, for 3 years, I was not in a restaurant. I cook myself, and completely wasteless. You know, for example, potatoes in a peel, I don't peel them. It's great. If you prepare it the right way, it's unbelievable. I wrote even a cookbook for this air fryer, because there was none in my country. So I put it, it's a second mostly viewed video on my YouTube channel with more than almost 250,000 views generally. And how I prepare a potato, I cut it. No words, I cut it. I put bacon in the cuts, and I put it just in the air fryer, and at the end a little cheese. It has over 26,000 views. It's the second mostly viewed video. The people are even crazier than me, generally, but it is so interesting. And I have a rice cooker here. I like rice, but I am surprised that 80% of people use it only for making rice, to make soup, unbelievable, to make a lot of other things.
I read that in my recipe. I can't say that I've tried it with soup. I did try it with a jam. I put grapes and I had strawberries and other things, and I did make a jam in the rice cooker. Because of
you have to share the recipe with me generally, because I would like to try. I tried a lot of things, even a jerky in the air fryer. I make jerky meat in 45 minutes.
Oh my goodness. I do like an air fryer though, I must say. But I want to ask you about, you talked about, how we do a lot of waste, and particularly about the peel of vegetables. Because here in the US, there's a big movement to peel your vegetables because a lot of spraying happens with the vegetables, right? So, and a lot of people are allergic to the exterior of the vegetables because of that. So first, if you're going to get rid of that waste and make it edible, you have to stop spraying. And then that, again, the industry is not going to stop that because it's profitable for them, right? And killing the bugs and getting the fruit to the market to look the same way and look, fresh. How do you combat that?
The industries will do it if it will be profitable for them. So they will stop spraying if it will be profitable. And just now came back to the information that 75% of all crop is being wasted. It's a very simple calculation. The people just cannot do the simple math. Because I don't know where it happened. I have a lot of discussion with my granddad who look at the things from the perspective of 100 years of life. I am 52. So it was very interesting. And we try to find out the moment when the people start really wasting in a big volumes. Probably after Second World War, we are not sure. The first single-use item, for example, it was a Gillette razor. It was the first single-use item generally. It was introduced somewhere 1908, 1912, something like that. But for the wasting, we don't know. But the fact is that we produce a lot of, but we are not the same with the consumption. This in the early stages, your grandparents remember those for sure. What was produced that was consumed?
Yeah, very little. My grandparents were into farming, and they grew everything, they ate everything. Whatever got killed, I remember the first time seeing a chicken get killed, and I was appalled because I'm from the city, and
I was not happy about to see this as well. So,
but you kill what you eat, right? And so they have a whole different perspective. They did not have a supermarket. When they were younger, there was no such thing as a supermarket. The supermarket was you put the vegetables at your gate, and people who needed it came by and picked it up and left change, left money for you to go. That was the supermarket. But now we have places where produce waste, because all this food sits there, and if it's not sold, at least my supermarket, I don't know about others, my supermarket, after a couple of days, they package fruits that are getting soft and they sell it for like $1, right? So I go in there because I drink smoothies. I go in there, I want my fruit to be overripe, So I buy all these $1 packages of a lot of fruit and I freeze them because I can't buy enough to drink it at the same time.
You know, you do not recycle because you upcycle. You do much better than recycling. You prevent the waste happen. That's the big difference. And you know why it's so much packaging? Because the products which we are buying in the supermarkets are being produced 1 year ahead, sometime 2 years ahead. So nothing like that was before because and this is why the people has been healthier because they did not need chemicals to make bread to be
Right.
edible for 30 days.
They ate it
No,
per day. Each day they ate their bread.
yes. And they eat it, and when it's get a little hard, so they have you can make out of bread wonderful soup, for example, because
Yes.
so a lot of things can be done. This is why we go back to roots, and why, for example, in India is much closer to Industry 5.0. I started the age of Industry 5.0 in India on August 21st, 2020. You know, I delivered a keynote on the largest industrial conference of that year, virtually because it was a COVID time. I never expected what will happen. In 1 week, I have over 1 million follow-ups of the biggest players like Tata and the others. So, and they ask me for support. But India is much more closer because they never lose their roots, you know. But in my country, because of the communist time and so on, I lived for 18 years in a communist country. So my country was Czechoslovak Socialist Republic was the official name. So I lived in this for 18 years. There came the Velvet Revolution, which ends up the time of communists. But I was 18 at it. So, and we have wasted as well, you know. But I do remember I lived in a flat house. Generally, there has been, I don't know, 40 families, and there was one garbage bin and never overflowing. Today, in a single family house, there are 5 containers and they are all overflowing. But one of the reasons for producing the food ahead or the products ahead is because this is this connection between production and the real consumption. And I don't know who did it. It was evil generally. It was really evil because he looked just on one side on the numbers, but he or she does not look at the real consumption. And this is why the package must kept the product, let's say, safe for a long time. This is why it's more complicated. This is why in the food are the chemicals inside which did not let it whatever. And this is exactly all the time the same. So
But as long as we as people want comfort, and I say comfort in a broad sense, we want things fast, we want things easier, we want things disposable because we don't want to take the time to do things again. I was in a hotel a couple of weeks ago, and every day they brought me, a wipe to remove my makeup, right? And every day I don't use it because I get in the shower and I wash my face and the makeup is gone.
new towels.
And so the person who was maintaining my room, the housekeeper, said, "You're not using your wipes every day." And I said, "I don't need to use my wipes because I shower every night and remove my makeup, and then my towels are clean because I don't have any makeup. I washed it off." And so she's looking at me like A, I can't do my job if you don't replenish. And
You are
B, we said to put the towels on the floor when you're done with them, and you don't have any towels on the floor. Like, because my towels are not dirty. We got into an argument about my not using the products of the hotel. And I'm like, this is such a waste because we're washing all these towels that don't need to be washed. I'm using wipes, like someone created wipes, and sometimes they are good. I'm not going to lie. But most of the times they should just sit there and not fill up the landfill, you know?
You are absolutely right. But generally, I work for the largest hotel chain in the world, teaching them how to prevent the food waste to happen and how the others. It is all about, not a single company joined me because of sustainability. It's just in annual reports and marketing stuff, generally greenwashing frequent. But they did it because they are more profitable. But the people who are responsible, they are not able to calculate it. It's a very easy calculation. If I take all the water which is needed, all the heat, all the detergents and so on, and I put all these simple numbers together, I will realize that when I teach the guests not to throw it, of course somebody can do it, but not to throw it on the floor every single day,
Yeah.
I will be more profitable. And this is why I approach industries. There helped me a lot of, for 10 years, I'm asking the CEO and general managers only one question, really only one. Do you want to generate waste or profit? You cannot have both. And for 10 years, I get only one answer. It's a very simple, and we do not speak about peanuts. We speak about millions and millions, which can be saved by preventing waste happen. So this is why I'm so happy that we can talk together, that Industry 5.0 incorporated. And generally, it's really built on this perspective, because then the cleaning lady is doing only what is said to her. Yeah. And because the targets are set, you have to carry back dirty. So she has to. It's generally wasting is incorporated in the instructions. And she is too small to argue about. But if she gets other instructions,
we can do, what we can do as human beings, right? The same thing just happened. I have an apartment building and the sewer keeps getting backed up because they're throwing the disposable baby wipe into the sewer and it doesn't dissolve, right? And so I said, okay, you're going to get fined. There are only 2 people with babies. You will share equally this fine if I prove, which I took a camera and proved that the wipes were clogging up. Stopped completely. No one has had a backup. No more wipes in the system. And, I don't expect them to go back to the days of using cloth diapers. I know they won't, but at least I can do what I can do for my little part of that.
And this is exactly the part, I cannot clean up the world myself, but I can teach people how not to prevent waste happen. And if they do, every single of my keynotes is generally a wake-up call. And not like Greta delivered, Greta, I am happy for her because I said the same long time before her, but I am generally white, old man, so all the negatives. But she was too young to offer to the people the solution. But I am, from the time when I was 18, I was delivering results with my hands. So I offer in every single of this keynote, I offer the solution. I show the business card issue, how waste is becoming waste. I wrote this, I published it. This document was published on September 1st, 2021 in 61 countries simultaneously. And the government of Nigeria asked me through the ambassador whether they can start implement in a national legislation. Of course. It's just that the people don't know that they can prevent waste happen.
Right.
And if we realize that, and if everyone will follow this one aim, because it's quite interesting. The aim of mine is to build wasteless world for all. And there is one interesting topic. I never thought it will be there. If I say, what do you see in your wasteless world? I am sure there will be 3 things. Water you can drink without any risk and you can swim inside and have fun. Air, which you can breathe again without a risk or a face mask on. And the third is, or are, the smiling faces of people you love around you. Whether there is a new car, new house, and whatever, it's possible. But these three things will be there. And I never forget, I have a delivery of a keynote on one conference in India, and they're invited they call it the waste pickers, unofficial. So they are the people who live on a landfill, who have families, who have everything. So all their life is on a landfill. They live there completely. And I delivered my keynote, and then I asked one of the ladies whether she liked it, and I never forget her answer. I have even a goosebumps right now on my skin. She said, "Mr. Rada, I will do everything what is possible that my children do not have to live another day on a landfill." And that was said by a lady which was born on a landfill, grow up her children, spent all her life there. So if people who are so dependent on the source can do it, everyone can do it. And this is the key and the message which should be spread globally, because we do not need money to prevent waste happen. The only thing which we need is to change our mindset.
I thank you. I thank you for this talk. I appreciate it. I hope to see you at many more conferences, because I do believe the word needs to be spread about waste. It's something we don't think about. Quite honestly, we don't think about it on a regular basis. We take it for granted. And it is, I know people who say, I'm not going to be around in 50 years, so what does it matter? And it does matter, because there is another generation coming up, and our children will feel the brunt of it. And if we live to have grandchildren, they will live in a world that is very different. So I actually hope we could turn back time and go back to the old days when we appreciated the simple things and didn't have a need to really mess up the world in order to get it. So it's going back to the future, right?
I am traveling to the future. I am able to travel to the future. It's not hard. Everybody can do it. I do it through my blogs, because I was able to write 1 year ahead every single day. So I have a post every single day prepared 1 year ahead. Right now I am 1 month, something like that. And how I learned that I really was there, that exactly on the day when my blog was published, happened what I described half a year ago, exactly on the day. Right now, I am even accurate up to minutes. So, you cannot take anything from the future back except of feelings. And I am not waiting what the future will bring. I am making the future. And yes, I would like to teach every single one. And I would like to thank you for having the opportunity to be with you, to really spread the word. And I am sure it's not the last time when we spoke together. It will be much more. And let me wish to you and all around you, have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, and please be visible, because so you will become the role model. And before we end, may I ask you one favor? I would like to make a screenshot of this conversation with one very special sign. Sure. I will show you. This sign is this. And it does not mean Mike Rada is number one or Dr. Sandi is number one. No. In Industry 5.0, this meaning is different.
What does that mean in Industry 1.0?
The meaning is we follow one aim, and this aim is to build wasteless world for all. So if you agree with this aim and you show your thumbs up, I will make a screenshot and promote it as our conversation.
Well, let me put, I'll do
Smile, please. Smile, please. Let me check if it's safe, because sometimes I have a trouble with saving. Okay, it is there, and I will promote it. So thanks a lot. It was really a beautiful conversation, and I am sure You will be surprised, same as me, that we spoke for more than 1 hour already.
And could continue. And could continue.
And do you feel that a single second was wasted?
No, I don't. I think it's something we all need to learn. And I'm more than welcome to recommend you for speaking gigs because this was really wonderful. Thank you so much.
It will be my honor. Thanks a lot. And as I said, have a beautiful day. And thank you for all what you are doing.
This is Dr. Sandi. Thank you so much for sharing your journey on the first, where no two stories are alike, even if the circumstances are similar. Let this discussion serve as inspiration for others to show what's possible, and more importantly, to produce seconds and thirds.